And further, we cannot ignore the ongoing crisis at the southern border. This also affects our homeland. The Biden administration's decision to dismantle the previous administration's border policies with no consideration of the consequences and nothing in its place has resulted in an historic surge of unlawful migrants, unaccompanied children, and deadly narcotics like fentanyl coming into our country. And make no mistake, the Mexican cartels are benefiting from this and gaining strength on both sides of the border. The trafficking of dangerous drugs across our border has helped fuel an addiction epidemic that has hit communities in my home state of Ohio particularly hard, with overdose deaths increasing over the last year after we made so much progress in saving lives over the few years before the pandemic. We must redouble our efforts to stop these drugs from flooding our communities. As far as I'm concerned, demand reduction remains the key, but the higher volumes reduces the price of these drugs on the streets, expands the number of drugs available, and causes, therefore, more devastation. It is clear that the border is a public health and humanitarian crisis, and has been for months. But particularly now, just look at Del Rio, Texas, where more than 10,000 migrants, mostly Haitians, who have been living in Latin America, some for years, have been living in squalor under a bridge. This is not new, by the way. It's just a logical extension of what has been happening on the border since the Biden administration came to office and reversed the policies that were in place, again, without putting in place policies to deal with what was totally predictable, a surge. It is also a national security threat. More than 1 in 4 migrants encountered at the border last month were not from Mexico or the 3 Central American countries, sometimes called the Northern Triangle. 25% were not from any of those countries. Nearly all of them avoided going to a port of entry and instead were apprehended by Border Patrol agents. The Border Patrol has now made more than 1 million apprehensions of unlawful migrants at our southern border since President Biden was inaugurated, and they will tell you a lot of folks got away. So we have a lot to talk about today. We certainly have the right people here to talk about all these issues. And again, I appreciate your being here in person to provide answers to the tough questions I imagine you'll get from both sides of the aisle, given all of the crises we face that I mentioned. I look forward, Mr. Chairman, to a productive conversation about the threats we face and about the actions being taken to prevent them.
Thank you, Ranking Member Portman. It is the practice of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee to swear in witnesses, so if each of you will please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony that you will give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I did. You may be seated.